Should churches be politically active? This is a very, very timely question and that we need to deal with, especially election is less than a month away from now. Taken from the book of church school, Doctrines for Every Christian, for Christian Life by Dr. John Frame, incredible book. So this is the book, got a cover here, The Doctrine of the Christian Life, that's it. The Doctrine of the Christian Life. He's got a wonderful chapter here that I want to share with you, and let's reflect and ponder over what he says. Okay, much has been said about the separation of church and state. Because of that, the churches are in a quandary as to how they should be involved in the political process. Some have advocated a militant stance against social and political evil. Others have argued that the job of the church is to preach the gospel and that the church should avoid politics altogether. The task of the church is set forth in the Great Commission, which involves not only baptizing, but also discipling, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you, Matthew 28:20. God has not given the sword to the church. Our only weapon is the sword of the Spirit, the Word of God. But the Word of God speaks comprehensively to all aspects of human life, 1 Corinthians 10:31. The Great Commission does not restrict the church to preaching a simple gospel, the way to escape divine judgment, but rather the preaching of the church presents the world a way of life that transforms everything, including politics. Christians are not saved, of course, by political action. They must bring their faith with them into the families, their workplace, and their politics. They must bring their faith into their families, their workplace, and their politics. Okay. In Roman time, there's not much Christians can do, early church, other than pray to influence political structures and policies. But when they can influence them, they should. In modern democracies, all citizens are lesser magistrates by virtue of the ballot box. Christians have an obligation to vote according to God's standards. And as they are gifted and called, they should influence others to vote in the same way. Influence others to vote in the same way. Now, this is based on John Calvin's very important analysis of involvement for politics as per se. Okay. John Calvin is saying that if the king behaves lawlessly, lesser magistrates must hold them accountable. Who are the lesser magistrates? We are the lesser magistrates by the power of our ballot, by the power of our voting. Thus, Calvin opposes absolute monarchy and places all rules under the law. In the final section of the Institutes, he urges Christians not to obey rulers when they command sin against God. If they command anything against God, let it go unesteemed. This is very important. They command anything. These are policy. This is not that Calvin never talked about the personality of the ruler, what kind of past, what kind of behavior, what is the personal life and all this. It's about what they do. It's what their policies, right? I mean, if they command sin against God, we oppose that. We must, if the king behaves lawlessly, we should hold him accountable. The king, in his sense, is the president in our days here. Okay? Like Calvin, Rutherford insists that such resistance or deposition be led by magistrates, people who themselves have legitimate civil authority. Thus, to overthrow a ruler in such cases does not violate Romans 13. You see that? It is rather obedience to legitimate authority against one who has forfeited that authority. So, what should Christians do? In a moment, in the next video, I will talk about Abraham Kuyper's position about the divine sovereign sphere that God has given. But So how should we position ourselves now? Right. So this is a cool thing. I talked about Christians have the obligation to vote accordingly. Next month is voting time. Christians must go and vote. We have an obligation to vote by the power of the lesser magistrates, which is us, through the ballot box. Christians have an obligation to vote according to God's standard, according to see what they do, and then we will make our voice and our power known through the ballot box. We are the lesser magistrate, so to speak, in Calvin's terminology in that sense. So the church should be involved in the politics by voting. And not only that, Frame also wrote, as they are gifted and called, they should influence others to vote in the same way. How do you influence others? If you don't speak out, if you don't, it's not a matter how do you speak out or not. It's more of a matter how to speak out. Okay, so that'll be the next video.